Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are taking our very first look at the new legendary tier German battleship, or in this case battle cruiser, the Schleiffen. So without further ado, you guys know we are on the path to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you guys have yet to subscribe, highly recommend you do so. Join us on our journey to 50K by the end of the year. We're well on our way. We're over 45,000. Just less than 5,000 subscribers remain. I believe in you. Let's make this dream a reality, shall we? So, with that being said, we're running Henry J. Hyde. But Spartan, why aren't you running Auto Celiacs? Well, because I want the memes and the accuracy. So we're running Henry J. Hyde. We are running Haruna, which is arpeggio of blue steel. So I believe she's in the shop right now if you guys want to pick her up. But definitely recommend her for those of us who like secondary builds. And then Franz von Hipper as our other inspiration. We have Flammable Cannoneer, Porcupine, Marksmanship, and Master Mechanic. Now you could swap out Flammable Cannoneer for... I wouldn't recommend Brawler because that's actually insane. Definitely never recommend Brawler. But if you wanted to go with like a Good Day's Work or something like that, I could see that. But having the extra range, having the extra like shell grouping is always a good thing for battleships. So that's why I go with it. But Porcupine, Marksmanship, Master Mechanic, and of course we're running Fight Fire with Fire. Okay? This comes in real handy when you only have a limited number of damage controls. So, highly recommend keeping this perk around. Alright, other than that, we are running Secondary Bad Mod 2. We are running Steering Gears. We're running Concealment System Mod. And we are running Secondary Bad Mod 3 Epic Secondary Mod. Because reasons. So for every 30,000 damage, this thing is going to get even faster reload on its secondaries, which is just kind of nutty by the time, because this thing does stack up damage very quickly. It may not be as broken as it would have been prior to having the new changes to the secondary battery, or to the epic mods, but I promise, even though it is for every 30,000, you will max out these secondaries very often. This ship is very, very nasty. I've only played 2 games in it, and in both games that I've played, I've had really solid games. So, I'm enjoying it. And I knew I would, because I enjoyed the Ruprecht. And this is literally just a better Ruprecht in every way. Like, it just is. This thing is nasty. But anyway, for the loadout, you can see we have 5 heals with this build. We only have 3 damage controls, which is a downside. If you wanted to go with Auto Celiacs to get the extra damage controls, I understand. But if you've played with the German battlecruisers up to this point, you should be used to moderating your damage controls really well. So having only 3 of them isn't the worst. But having 3 secondary boosters as well is nice. And then, of course, you have a ridiculously good sonar, as you'd expect. Not quite as good as GK's, but 5.7 is solid either way. So it's very nice. All right. But yeah, so we do run the Epic Battle Booster on this for a little bit of extra range on the main guns, because otherwise you end up with like a 17.9 kilometer range. So keep that in mind. We are running the Italian Unity flag because if you squint just right, it looks like a Spartan helmet, even though, let's be real, it's not. And then, of course, we are running the Shadow camo because everything looks better in black. I think we can all agree on that. Alright, so for survivability, you have 80,000 hit points, so not nearly as much hit points as, say, GK, but honestly, this thing's nasty. 25% torp reduction. For artillery, you got 8 420mm 50 caliber SK L50 DRH LC 1918s that reach out to 18.4 kilometers with this build. Remember, that is with the Epic Battle Booster, which adds about half a kilometer of range. If you take the Epic Battle Booster off, that'll be 17.9. Reload time, though, 30 seconds, so not the fastest reloading dual guns in the world. You would think with only having 2-barrel guns that you would be able to reload a little bit faster than this. I don't understand it, but I do, because from a balance standpoint, they had to do something. This thing is broken. Broken. All right. HE shell maximum damage 4,600 with a 27% chance to set fires. AP shell maximum damage of just 12,950. So not the hardest hitting AP in the world either. For 420mm guns, it's kind of actually a little anemic in the AP shell damage. But that could be due to the fact that the Germans used ballistic capped shells, so there's not as big of a bursting charge in the shells, so maybe that has something to do with it. The secondaries. This is what you guys wanted to know. This is what it's all about. 105mm L65 DOP C37s. You get 24 of them, reaching out to 12.6 kilometers, reloading in just 2.8 seconds with the base. All right? That is your base reload. Once you start proccing that secondary booster, that secondary epic secondary mod, that goes down. And these are disgusting. 5% chance to set fires, and you get 1,200 maximum HE shell damage as well. And then, of course, you got the German 150mm L55 MLC-36s. You get 16 of them, reaching out to 12.6 kilometers, reloading in 6.4 seconds. That's kind of crazy. 150mm guns reloading at 6.4 seconds. You literally have a slightly worse Worcester on the side of your ship. Just put it into perspective, right? HE shell maximum damage is 1,700 with an 8% chance to set fires. Okay, and remember, that reload time gets cut down every time you get 30,000 damage. All right? Not only that, but unlike the Grosse Kurfürst, unlike the Frederick the Grosse, unlike the Bismarcks and the Tirpitz and the Brandenburg, the German battlecruisers have the most accurate god-darn secondaries on the planet, rivaling that of the United States 5-inch 38s. Now, 5-inch 38s are much shorter range. I get that. But these things are accurate out to their maximum range. These things will be landing multiple hits on big targets especially, but even smaller targets at range. So, highly recommend you guys build for secondaries on these things. You will not regret it, okay? Torpedoes. You have 533mm Vierling torpedoes. You get 16 of them, reloading in just 160 seconds, doing a maximum damage of 16,533 damage. They are detectable at 1.2 kilometers and have a torp range of 8 kilometers, which is what we come to know out of the German battlecruisers. Now, the downside, obviously, is that they are only 54-knot torpedoes, and that's going to come back and bite me in the butt in this video that I'm going to show you guys. I always forget just how slow these torpedoes are. These are like right there with the Italians in terms of their torpedo speed. But these have a pretty solid range and decent sneakiness, and so you get 8 of them per side of the ship, so that's really nice. So you just got to spread out the love, try to lead your target where they're intending to go rather than where they're currently at. AA defense is actually pretty solid, especially for a German boat. But 30mm Flak 30H, you get 48 of them, doing 172 damage per second, reaching out to 3 kilometers. 55mm L77 Gerat 58 Zwillings, you get 6 of them, doing 73 damage per second, reaching out to 5 kilometers, so decent standoff capability there. And then you have the 105mm L65 DOP LC31s. You get 24 of them, doing 200 damage per second, reaching out to 4.5 kilometers. Little weird that the way they ended up doing these listings here. Usually you put the one with the longest range last, but these are decent mid to long range AA. This might be one of the only German battleships that you ever, like, potentially even think about doing some AA with, but honestly, I still wouldn't rely on it. At the end of the day, it's carriers. If they want you dead, they can make it happen. Maneuverability, 35.1 knot top speed with this build. Turning circle of 970 meters. That is slightly buffed, by the way. The maximum speed is slightly buffed by the fact that we're running an epic battle booster, so keep that in mind. It should be in, like, the 34 knot range. So keep that in mind. Rudder shift time of 13.7 seconds with this build. That's why I went with a little bit of extra rudder rather than the propulsion mod, because I needed a little bit faster rudder. This thing has like a 16-second base rudder shift time. It's rough, all right? It's rough. Having a little bit of extra agility comes in handy. Concealment, though, 13.6 kilometers by sea, 11.4 by air. 2 is always guaranteed. 15.7 kilometer smoke firing penalty. Statistics, as you're going to see, we have played exactly 2 games in it. We have a 100% win rate with a 42% main gun accuracy. My average damage, 159,580 damage. So like I said, we're doing good. Also, average XP, 2,168. So we're doing pretty good in this ship. Average potential damage, 1.3 million. So you can see, I tend to be at the front of the fight. Armor. That's where this thing is actually broken. Okay, so this thing is decently tanky. If you put this thing at a decent angle, you are going to be just fine. It's got armor everywhere. It just does. So at the front, you'll notice that we actually have a 27mm bow. Okay. Burton, what's that other? That's the icebreaker. Calm down, I'm getting there. But 27mm can be overmatched by anything 16 inches and above. So keep that in mind. Bourgogne, against this thing, no chance, unless you go flat broadside. Like, it literally has no chance. This thing can rush a Bourgogne and just annihilate it. With secondaries setting fires and then the guns doing what they do. Like, these things are nasty. Okay? Now, for the other part, we have a 60mm icebreaker bow. Okay? That means nothing is getting through that. And it is not a small little belt that goes to the front. It is a massive chunk of your front of your ship that is sticking out of the water that is 60mm. So it's not quite as tanky as the Grosse Kurfürst, as you would expect. It is slightly less so, but it's still absolutely nasty. And most people shoot at the waterline in their Yamis when they're overmatching. So you're going to bounce a lot of Yamis just by them being stupid. So keep that in mind. And then, of course, the side armor is just, you know, it's German. It's solid. You're not going to hate the side armor at all on this thing. So it does not have a turtleback armor scheme, so keep that in mind. But, I mean, you got anywhere from 350 to 150mm of armor anywhere on the side of this ship. So, any angling whatsoever, nothing's getting through it. So, angle well, learn how to use it, and you will be fine. Okay? But if we look, you can see it does have a slightly raised citadel. It's not much, but it is a slightly raised citadel. Any sort of turning whatsoever, and you get caught broadside, you're exposing that citadel, you can absolutely be punished for it. Also, the same exact weaknesses as most battleships. Even if it did have a turtleback, you could exploit it through the bow side plating. Though, with 60mm belt that covers a good chunk of that, like, angling is very easy to bounce rounds, even trying to go through the bow side plating at this sort of angle. So keep that in mind. But yeah, it is a slightly exposed citadel. It is not a turtleback armor scheme. As you guys can see, there is no overlapping armor. You just got some regular deck armor. So keep that in mind. If you get caught broadside, it's going to hurt. And if you're turning while you get caught broadside, you're likely to be citadeled and potentially sit back to port. Okay? Overview. Secondary reach. Above average secondary battery range. It is literally the best secondary battery range in the game. There's nothing that beats it. Okay? I've seen some people get their build out to like 13s. I haven't done that. I haven't tried to see exactly how far I can get the secondaries, but they reach far enough as is. Extended sonar. So that is the German sonar. Again, reaches out, spots ships at 5.7 kilometers. And then fast, above average maximum movement speed. It is a battlecruiser. It is meant to have some speed. It has 34 knots base, and with the Epic mod or Epic booster that we're running, we're getting 35.1 knots. The Schleiffen, a high-speed battleship that inherited numerous traits of German battlecruisers of the World War I period. Her main armament is represented by 420mm guns. She was designed in 1944. Obviously, she was never built. But, yeah, this thing, I'll be honest, this is my new favorite German battleship. It's not even close. It's not even close. There is not a German battleship in this game that I would rather play than this thing. Well, pardon, it's a battlecruiser. I know, but in the game, it's called a battleship. So I'm going to call this my favorite German battleship, and it's not even close. So, with all of that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Shards, and we spawned at Charlie. And we're in the Schleiffen. We look over to our right, we actually have a Kaba and a radar cruiser next to us. Now, spawning in and seeing that you're up against 5 destroyers, generally speaking, is going to be a bad time for a battleship. However, in the Schleiffen, it's not that big of a deal. Because you do have sonar, and you have insane secondaries. And you have accurate enough guns, because you get a hybrid build, that this thing can absolutely terrorize most ships that it comes up against. So that's what we're going to try to do. Now, like I said, we have a Kaba and a Seattle that spawn right next to us. So we're going to try to help them by pushing straight into Charlie and helping them remove destroyers as quickly as possible. As well as putting ourselves in a position to counter anybody that might be over here. But, as with all good plans, they're sometimes thrown away because your teammates decide that they don't want to actually play. And that's kind of what we're going to run into on this side. Now, don't get me twisted, this is still going to be an absolutely banger game. And honestly, I've been thoroughly enjoying the Schleiffen so far. I've only played a few games in it, but it is a lot of fun to play. Now, you can see we are already spotted. There's nobody in the cap currently, but pretty sure that there's somebody either in the middle or directly off our bow that's about to be in the cap. So, we're going to try to put ourselves, you can see destroyer spotted right off the bow. It's a Shima. So, we're going to try to get a full broadside away here. Unfortunately, he is playing smart. He's actually reversing away. He's using island cover, and you can see that dispersion was tragic. Now here we have the rear guns available to shoot at the Awami. The enemy Daring is also here, so we're going to try to put ourselves in a position to help get rid of him. We use our sonar immediately so that we can potentially spot any torpedoes that may be coming our direction. And we're just going to move in and try to get rid of the enemy. Now, the enemy Shima goes down from, I want to say it was the left side, or maybe it's mid. But they've already lost one Shima. So if we can move forward and get rid of these two destroyers, then that gives us a really good opportunity to win this match. Because at the end of the day, the team that has destroyers longer usually wins. And this Daring is about to make a really dumb play here. He's going to come around the corner. Despite being spotted, he's going to come out, get himself spotted again. We're going to reach out and touch him with the mains. We've unfortunately not got our secondary booster ready, but we get a solid hit with the mains, and the secondaries are doing their thing. Now here's where it comes in handy to have the secondary, or the steering gears on your battleships, especially if you play aggressive. Look at this nice little dodge. Just find a gap, turn towards it, get your butt out of the way, and you get a nice little result. You don't get torped into oblivion. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get rid of the Daring. We are targeting the destroyer to our right, the Shima, with torps. And you can see, I actually make the wrong play here. I forgot how slow these torpedoes are. Iwami turns full broadside in front of me, and I was expecting depth strike here, but unfortunately didn't get it. Our secondary, enhanced secondary, or epic secondary mod, whatever you want to call it, we get our first proc there because we've done over 30,000 damage. And the secondaries are just going to go full ham at this point. Now here, I'm trying to use the island to protect me from the Shima, while I'm expecting these torpedoes to hit the Awami. The Yami out here is just absolutely begging for it, and this is one of those opportunities to showcase just how good these guns actually are. The secondaries are going to do what the secondaries do, right? But the primaries actually have really decent penetration angles, much like the Grosse Kurfürst, right? The Grosse Kurfürst has very good guns. It's just really big, really hard to maneuver. But punching straight through the Yamato's cheek at 8 kilometers with accuracy, getting 3 citadels, taking him down to no health. And then these secondaries just sitting here eating him alive. There's not much he can do about it. Just one after another, instantly. And just like that, with that shot on the Yami with the 3 citadels, we're up to 3 procs of our secondary mod. And now he opens up a little bit further, and we should be able to easily finish him off. We reverse a little bit too much, unfortunately, but we also did not citadel him. So it's going to come down to the secondaries. You can see I'm realizing a little too late that I'm still like going to overshoot the island. And I know there's a Shima behind me, and you can see he's just waiting for his opportunity. He gets a double fire here, and me, being the dummy that I am, I put it out immediately instead of waiting. There's only one reason a Shima would be shooting at you, and that is because he wants you to burn your damage con so that he can catch you with a freaking torpedo. And of course, the one torpedo that just skids past the island is going to be the inevitable death of me. Now, we do get a heal off here, which is huge. That's going to protect us for a little bit, but again, we don't get a damage con back for another 20 seconds. 20 seconds of flooding is a bad time. And there's nobody to set us on fire to proc our damage over time, fight fire with fire perk either. So we're just going to try to get as much damage as possible on this Yami while we have no health. If he just stops looking at us, he's actually about to drive into our secondary range. We do get our damage con away, but that was just a really dumb play by me. Putting out a double fire when you have limited damage cons and you know that there's potentially torpedoes on the way, very bad idea. But here, we're over-angled because I just don't care. At this point, if I'm angled, it doesn't matter. He's probably gonna kill us anyway. So at this point, I just want all of my secondaries to go. We're firing the main guns every time they reload. We're gonna move a little bit, hoping that he doesn't manage to hit us. But unfortunately, us moving forward is gonna put us in a position to be shot by the enemy Iwami that we already introduced ourselves to. But if you're looking at the score, we've already got 152,000 damage. Now, he damage conned a single fire from the secondaries. We take a hit from the Iwami, and now we've got him on a double fire, and he is just getting shredded by these secondaries. And this isn't even the secondary booster. Like, we don't have the enhanced secondary targeting mod on. But we do have the booster rolling, and we are maxed out. We're over 150,000 damage, so we have these secondaries firing as fast as they can possibly fire. Unfortunately, we do throw some torps out there expecting to die. The Iwami manages to kill us. Again, he's at the far back of the map. One of the downsides, and the reason that I kind of like talked about these two at the beginning, remember, a Kaba. What is the Kaba's like best attribute? It's a gunboat, right? That's what that thing is. It is absolutely insane at removing destroyers in seconds. It's fast. It gets up close and personal and can murder destroyers very quickly. He never even bothered to try. He legitimately went into the cap early, saw a couple destroyers, turned and ran away. The only thing there to counter him was 2 destroyers, which he could easily kill, and an Iwami who was terrified. He has a radar cruiser right next to him, and a battleship with extended sonar. And neither of those guys decided to move forward at any point during this match until I was dead. That's when they decide, oh yeah, we're just going to move forward, we're going to kill this Shima, we're going to try to do things. It drives me crazy. It really does. Because they have the ships to counter the stuff that's on our side, but they refuse to use them. Meanwhile, we're over here with 201,000 damage, over 300 secondaries hit. We captured the base with an assist. Like we've done everything in our power, and this is why my win rate in these ships is so high. Despite the fact that I tend to play really aggressively and maybe don't live through the battles, my win rate is really high in Schleiffen and in the new Italian battleship Lepanto, because you're putting yourself in a position to win. You may not play to survive, but you play to win, right? So countering the guys that are most likely to keep the game alive for their team, and being able to put yourself in a position to capture bases and contest caps is ultimately going to put your team in a better position to win. If these guys had moved up at any point during that fight, if they countered that Shima and we don't manage to take that permaflood, we're probably still alive and looking at 220, 230,000 damage in this game. If I had to guess. But unfortunately, that's not the way it plays out. Unfortunately, we make one mistake, putting out a double fire, eat a permaflood, and that ends up costing us in this one. So, it all comes down to little moments during a match where you make a mistake and it costs you your ability to continue to play in the match, right? And that was ours. These two, however, because they managed to keep themselves far away out of trouble, have all their hit points. They have the lead. We helped them grab and maintain a 2-cap advantage. Our destroyer early on captured the center, so we have a huge points lead. All these guys have to do is try to not die. That's all they have to do. The enemy does have enough time that they could potentially cap and get a lead here. So at this point, the goal should be protect the cap. Like, that should be all it is. The destroyer should put himself in a position to spot anything that goes for the cap. And then the cruiser, with its DPM, uses island cover to rain hell on him. That should be how this goes. Unfortunately, that's not how this goes. Unfortunately, our Kaba is going to go all the way out to the outside edge of the map. And it's going to allow the Yami to reverse into the cap. Now, the good news is, Yami's still slow, Kaba's still fast. Kaba's going to be able to spot him before he gets into the cap. And so that's going to allow some early damage against him. The Kaba's going to open water gunboat here. The friendly, you can see, is trying to use the island cover potentially. And you can see the enemy Yama is officially in the cap. But 201,000 damage is all we're going to end up with in this one. The Seattle is in a position where he can't shoot anymore. He's got an island between him, so he's now going to have to come out from behind that island and have no escape from this Yama if the Yama is able to shoot him. The Kaba's about to go around the island and spot the Yama any moment. Any moment. Come on. See, this is one of the other things. Like, again, we have a 150 point advantage roughly, right? 160 points. The enemy grabs the B cap without being spotted, because the Kaba went all the way around the outside of the edge. Now the Kaba finally gets the Yama spotted, but it's too little too late. They had the cap. But at least now the Seattle could sit here and potentially spam over the top of the island. Kaba is putting himself in a position where he's actually firing his guns, which at the end of the day is not the worst thing here, because Kaba has decent armor, and the accuracy of one battleship versus a Kaba in open water, I'm going to take the DPM of the Kaba in that fight. You can see he does take a couple of hits. Actually, the Yama firing HE at him is probably the dumbest thing the Yama could be doing there. The Kaba is the one destroyer that has enough armor to shatter HE shells from even battleships. Like, it legitimately will shatter on a Kaba. So firing HE at a Kaba is just a really bad idea when you're shooting, especially from a battleship. Because your DPM isn't there. It's not like you're using a Worcester, it's not like you're using anything like that, where you could potentially do enough damage quick enough to continue to do what you need to do to get rid of them. Whereas Kaba is just going to sit there and farm you. You have become a damage farm. But fortunately, Seattle is now in a position where he radars the enemy destroyer. And I don't know if you guys saw, but he actually requested support for some reason. Apparently, you know, being in a radar cruiser with all the DPM in the world, you're scared of one destroyer. But 201,000 damage, top of the leaderboard. Surprise, surprise, not really. Kaba didn't get very high in this one. Seattle didn't get very high despite having 4 kills. We're the one that did all the damage. So he gets to clean up after us. So let me know what you guys think. Are you guys having fun in the Schleiffen? I personally am. I think it's very strong. It probably is a little too strong, if I had to guess. Might need a nerf at some point. But for now, it is a lot of fun. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.